Welcome to The Stacks, a podcast about books and the people who read them. I am your host, Tracy Thomas, and today we have Ayser Salman. Ayser is the author of The Wrong End of the Table, her mostly comedic memoir of growing up in the United States as a Muslim immigrant from Iraq and trying to find a place where she could fit in. Before we talk to Ayser, let's do a little housekeeping. Here is your weekly reminder. In the show notes, there is a link. That link will take you to all the books discussed today, as well as the social media accounts for the Stacks and our guests. Plus, if you shop through the links on Amazon, you're helping to keep the Stacks free. If you're in need of a book recommendation, send us an email at askingthestacks@gmail.com. Myself and my guest will read it on air and give you a personalized book recommendation. So email askingthestacks@gmail.com with your name, what you're looking for, and maybe a few titles you've loved or hated. If you like the Stacks and want to support the work we're doing, here are a few easy ways you can help. First of all, you can join us on Patreon. You earn perks like our virtual book club and get to connect with other listeners of this podcast. Plus, you get to rest easy knowing your contribution helps to make this show possible. So head over to patreon.com/thestacks to be a part of this fantastic community. The last thing is the easiest. Just subscribe to The Stacks. Leave us a rating and a review. It's super helpful and it's super easy. So please, please, please take a moment to do that. And of course, we always invite you to tell someone you know about the show. All right, that's it for me. Now it's time for our conversation with Ayser Salman. All right, you guys, I am here today with Ayser Salman. She is an author. Her book is called The Wrong End of the Table, a mostly comic memoir of a Muslim Arab American woman just trying to fit in. Ayser also works in entertainment as an editor and a producer. Ayser, welcome to The Stacks.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here. We have a lot to talk about. Okay, so let's just dive in. Tell us a little bit about your backstory, who you are, where you came from, how you got to LA. Just a casual intro. That's a lot of questions, I know.
Yeah. I'm like, well, how far do I go back? Well, my name is Ayser Salman. I am originally from Iraq. I grew up in Kentucky, and I came to LA after majoring in journalism in undergrad and deciding that I hated reporting on the news and I actually wanted to make up stories. Well, actually, I decided I wanted to do documentaries. And so I applied to film school and I came to Loyola Marymount, and that's how I got to LA. Prior to that, I think when I was a kid, like California was my dream because most of my life was spent watching TV, like a lot of young kids, but particularly immigrants watching TV and looking, because you want to make sense of the world, basically. So I was born in Iraq, came here when I was 3 to the States. So and then we moved around a lot, Ohio and various neighborhoods in Kentucky. And then I kind of always felt like I didn't quite fit in. I always felt like the other. I mean, I am the other, but I always felt like I was at the wrong end of the table. Literally. Right. I mean, the reason I wrote the book is because I always felt like, and to this day, it's part that I'm, introvert and part that the immigrant thing is constantly feeling like I'm at, picture like a banquet table and there's a party going on. And there's always, for some reason, something more interesting happening at the other end of the table, to the point where I've gotten to choosing my seats. Like when everybody shows, I sit in the middle and then people sit away from me, and I'm like, all right, well, so it's literally being at the wrong end of the table, but also feeling like as an immigrant, we feel like I should say the other, because that's kind of more inclusive, like just kind of the non-majority of what America is, feeling like we're at the wrong end of the table, or maybe not even at the table.
Well, that's part of it. I mean, when I read the beginning of your book, and you explain the title pretty much right away, I think in the introduction, and I thought to myself, this is so right on. I feel this way. But I even feel that sometimes at like holiday dinners with my family. I know my brother and I were really intense. The rest of my family who's listening, plug your ears. I don't want to have to deal with this. But we'll be like, okay, where are you sitting? Like, okay, let's put our drinks down here. So we already have our seats marked out. So we have to help my mom bring the food out. Nobody takes our seats at the table, which is very literal. But I think you're right to say that as the other, there's having a seat at the table and feeling like you're not in the right place, but also oftentimes not having a seat at the table.
Correct.
And that both of those things are true probably in different parts of your life, that sometimes you feel like you're looking in from the outside, and sometimes you probably feel more like, I'm here, but I'm not exactly where I'm supposed to be, or I'm not exactly where I want to be.
For sure.
I want to talk, before we talk about your book, I want to talk a little bit about producing, editing, what sort of work that entails, because I know that when I came to LA, I thought a producer was one thing, and apparently a producer is everything.
It is.
It's like if you're not acting or directing or writing,
right,
you're producing. And if you are producing, you also might be writing.
Correct.
Or directing or acting.
Right. So the kind of producing I do, it's called I'm a predator, which sounds horrible.
Yeah,
and especially when I tell you that the last big company I worked for is the Weinstein Company. So that kind of, but it basically is a producer editor. And what it is, I'm an editor, but I create the content. Okay. I don't have, they'll give me the footage and just say, here, put something together. Okay. And they're like little mini like little featurettes, kind of behind the scenes stuff, anything that promotes the film or show. And so, most recently I was fortunate to work on Pose, both seasons, which was awesome. But that's basically, when I came to film school, I was like, I never dreamed I would be a writer. I never really thought of myself as a writer. I guess I thought of myself as a storyteller, and which is more encompassing. But I did have the skill of editing. Even when I was a kid, when I grew up, and so I forgot to mention also that part of in between Kentucky and California, there was a little brief stint of us when we lived in Saudi Arabia. My parents had jobs there, and so I lived there from when I was 9 to 15. And there was not much in the way of entertainment, right? And we didn't have, like, some of my friends who worked for in Aramco and lived in compounds, they had satellite TV, and that was the big thing. Again, bringing it all back to television. Right. And so there were 2 stations, and I would literally edit, bits together. Like I would on the fly record stuff and do these interview things.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, to me, I was like, oh, I'm just going to entertain myself. And I didn't realize that was kind of the beginning of this career that I would have, that I would sort of fall into. That when I came out to, I did it a little bit. I worked in news, and I was an editor as well as a producer. And when I came out to film school, I thought, while I'm waiting for my big break, my 3-picture deal, because I'm going to be a director and I'm going to win an Oscar and or an Emmy or whatever, I'll just edit. And I fell into, this was 2000. This was around the time of the DVD explosion, where you were buying DVDs and here's what's happening behind the scenes. And this is, here's Quentin Tarantino talks to the cat whatever of this film. So it was like kind of a look behind, a look at the making of and the stuff that didn't make it to the screen. And so it's sort of like an insider look. And I fell into that. Like Miramax, I started, sorry, let me go back because I don't think. So that was happening, and I fell into Miramax and fell into a job at Miramax. Well, I didn't literally fall into Miramax. I fell into Miramax, and they're like, okay, we'll hire you. No, I just happened to answer an ad for something, and it was at Miramax. Oh my gosh. And they'd wanted somebody to cut reels, and it became this thing where they would literally just give you footage and say, put it together. And it was at the height of Miramax. It was like anybody you talked to who worked there during the early 2000s, that was the time. That's when the magic was happening. And so it was so exciting to be part of it. And so I thought, oh, okay, well, I'm working in my field, so I'll just stay. I'm kind of making these little movies. I'm sort of being a filmmaker. And so I ended up staying for 17 years. Oh my gosh. As a freelance, because, again, editing pays well.
Well, and it's creative, and you're still storytelling. It's just not necessarily, I think a lot of times when we're younger, we have dreams of jobs that maybe we want to have because they're the only ones we see.
Yeah.
So I don't know that kids anywhere, Saudi Arabia or Kentucky or California, even know that your job exists.
Right.
But they're doing what you were doing, which is splicing things together. Kids who don't know that you can be a producer on music, but you love to make a mixtape or something. You don't know that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that there's part of you that was like, this is actually way more fulfilling than I thought.
Well, and again, I'll go back to the introvert and the awkward immigrant thing, is that I could sit in a room and I didn't have to talk to anybody.
Right.
And I'm not interacting with actors, and I'm looking at them on this, and I really credit editing with helping my writing and vice versa, because writing is the beginning part of telling a story, and editing is kind of the ending part where you're telling a story, you're shaping it. And it's, I also teach short film writing at my alma mater, Loyola. And I, tell the students that, as some professor told me, that there's 3 movies you make. There's the one that you write, the one that you shoot, and then the one that you edit. And they're all going to be a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, we're not here to talk about my editing. I can geek out on that forever, because it's just super fun. Like, it's just, you're like you said, you're telling stories, and, I'm one of those people that it doesn't bother me to play something over and over again. I know a lot of my friends are like, I couldn't do it. It would make me crazy. Listen to the same thing over and over. You kind of have to have sort of a little bit of a obsessive quality.
Personality.
Yeah.
Do you think that you'd ever try to write or direct or do something, or do you feel like you're in the right place for you? Like, do you like what you're doing?
I do. I don't know that I would direct. Never say never, but I always feel like I definitely would like to have my own show on TV. I'm definitely
based on your life.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. I came to this book, like I said, so going back a little bit. So I was an editor, or have been an editor, producer, editor. And the good thing about that job is it allowed me to write as well, because it was, I'm staring at a screen, but it's a different kind of screen. I'm staring at people, images, and then I can go home or on the weekends and sit down and write. And that's, so I looked at it as, like you said, like a really great, a fun, well-paying day job. And at some point, maybe, I don't know, a few years in, I maybe 10 years into it or something, I said, oh, okay, this is great, but I want to create my own content. I don't want to work on other people's content. So I'm going to do my own writing. And again, I was so focused. I was thinking I would be a screenwriter, not TV, because at the time, even though I grew up with TV, but TV hadn't experienced that renaissance, you know? And I wrote my first pilot, which is called Those Kadam Arabs. And it was optioned, kind of made the rounds based on my life. Basically the theme of my stories is always this dysfunctional but lovable Arabic family and the kid who desperately wants to escape, And so this was a kind of a younger version of me, and very exaggerated. And, it just lent itself more to a television kind of serialized sort of situation. Right. And
well, you have so many stories.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing. Like, when I was younger, I was like, ugh, this is horrible. But, now when I started writing them, I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is the reason why. And my mother, would joke with a big touch of seriousness that I was going to bring shame on the family, which I didn't. She's, approved. She signed off on the book, and she's very happy with it. But in the beginning, I think there's that fear of like, what are you going to tell about us? And you're going to, because especially like, mothers are very, I don't know about your mother. My mom is very private. Don't ever, don't speak outside the family, all that kind of thing. Little a Middle Eastern mom, and then my mom on top of that is another layer. And it's just like, don't say anything about anything, And so I'm like, she's like, maybe you should just give, a cousin and just make up a fake cousin and give her all the sex stories. And I'm like, Mom, there's not going to be sex stories, because it's not that kind of book. But B, you can't do that.
Your mom's like, why don't you write a fantasy novel about a made up woman?
Yeah, totally.
Ayser. She's fine.
She's in outer space.
Yeah. She definitely is not from Iraq. She's definitely didn't grow up a lot of places. Right. Her parents don't do pharmacy. Like, no.
No.
She's like on Mars. It's fine.
Yeah. And she's blonde.
Yeah, she's definitely blonde. Mm-hmm. She's Christian and she's blonde. No big deal. Well, I do. Okay. You say in your book, when you're coming up, when you come to America, no one's ever even heard of Iraq. Like, it's like totally, it's, might as well be, I don't know, anywhere, a made up place especially for kids in Kentucky and Ohio, like when you're coming up. And then of course, now so much of the focus in foreign policy. Well, not right now. Right now, we're really focused on Russia and Ukraine. But I don't know, 6 weeks ago, so much of the focus has been on the Middle East. Right. How did that shift happen when you were still younger? Like the Cold War and all of that. I mean, not the Cold War, the Gulf War and all of that. You were here in America.
Right.
Like, how did that shift for you? And what do you feel like? What was that like? It's kind of a huge question.
Yeah, no, it was, so it was really, it was disconcerting. I talk about too, like the book is mostly comic, as you said, as the title said.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of, serious points, and that was both of the Gulf Wars and then 9/11, obviously. And I think I went from, because we came over in the 70s, and people didn't know what Iraq was. And I think, there was a point where I was at a ice skating rink with my dad, and my dad was speaking to me in Arabic, and a father and his child came by, and the kid's like, Dad, what are they speaking? Where are they from? And he's like, I don't know, probably Mexican, because that was the thing, right? Nobody. And, I don't know. I think I was just so desperate to fit in that I was like, sure, I'll be whatever.
I'll be whatever's easy.
Yeah. I don't want, I don't know why it was such a, scary thing for me to say, but also because we came here around the time of the Iran, like the hostage.
Right.
And so there was that whole thing of like, oh, are you from Iran? Iran and Iraq get confused and all that kind of thing. During the Gulf War, I was in college. And so it was an interesting thing, because it was kind of, my brother, it was that whole thing, like we were American citizens, so he could potentially be drafted. So it was this weird realm, right? That, that whole thing. And then on top of it, like you're in class with these people, you're, who one of the women, I think, said something like, oh God, why don't we just bomb them? I remember I'd heard a lot of that in high school. Libya, the Libya crisis was going on. And so that was how, why don't we just bomb that part of the world? And then you're just like, okay, these people are ignorant. But then you get to college and they're saying, why don't we just bomb them? So then you ask, well, what's the story? Right. And they're like, and she's like, well, and it's obviously she had a personal interest in it, and her fiance was fighting over there, and if he gets killed, she's going to be right, and she's like, what are we doing? Why are we fighting? And so you kind of, it's that whole empathy thing, and always for me, always kind of leading with this, I'm here in America, I need to assimilate, I need to fit in. What is the right way to fit in? What am I supposed to? I was always that question of, how am I supposed to feel? Right. And it's taken this long. I mean, that's why, I don't know that we want to you have a question in the questionnaire, but like the very last question of what would you require Donald Trump to read? There's a section in the book that talks about Donald Trump and how he actually wasn't as horrific for the country, in the sense that it allowed people like me to kind of push our voices louder, and I think that it's not until recently, this whole idea of authenticity and being who you are, there's no way you're supposed to be. Right. But back then I was like, I want to make it okay for you that I'm from Iraq, and
I want you to feel safe and comfortable around me, because I'm not that, or that's not my family. Yeah. We don't have those beliefs.
And so, and so that's the thing, like you would get, and then around, so then it became that whole thing. Well, you're not like them. Right. Or after 9/11, well, you're not like those people. And you learn, it's kind of like, I don't know how to, like, I'm working on a good analogy of it, but like, not dealing with like accepting the scraps or just like divvying out, like, right. I don't, like, maybe you can.
Well, you're saying that you're coming to terms with this idea that you don't have to accept other people's understanding of whether it's Muslim folks or Arab folks or whatever it is, that your wholeness isn't tied up in other people's misconceptions. Is that kind of?
Yeah. And also I think it's diminishing. Like if I look back at everything and I think, wow, I really diminished myself.
Right. Okay. I see.
You have to, but I kind of had to.
Right. It was a different time, and it's hard. And I think you're smart to say what you said about Trump, not necessarily that, he's done good for people or has helped people, marginalized folks, or as you said, the other, but that he has at least made it okay to talk about some of this stuff that we weren't talking about. Now, is the trade-off that maybe we wouldn't have to have like kids in cages at the border so that we could all talk about this. Like, it seems like a pretty shitty give and take, but I hear what you're saying about him. And I think that you're certainly not the first to say that. And I think a lot of people from marginalized groups have found their voice and their strength and have come to similar understandings of, I was doing things that were problematic or hurtful to my own success in the past. And now I'm recognizing that I actually wasn't alone, or I didn't have to do that, you know?
Right. And I think I just want to be clear, and it talks about it in the book, because my friend skewered me about this. She's like, are you really saying that Donald Trump is doing good for the country? And I'm like, no. What I'm saying is there is so much vitriol coming from a certain area that the other voices came out and went, all right, fine.
Right, exactly.
This is what we got. And it helped us as much as it was, we were worried that it was going to I was worried that it was going to divide us. It actually, I felt like unified us. Or maybe I just, you gravitate towards your people.
Yeah, I think
and by that, I don't mean my people, like my immigrant people. I mean like people who are like-minded.
Who share your spirit.
Yeah, so I don't want your listeners to be like, okay, they're like, what?
No, I hear what you're saying. It's not necessarily, it's just that he made space for some terrible, terrible dialogue.
Yeah.
And it allowed for people to actually respond to it.
Correct.
Where a lot of it was microaggressions or things that people made you feel like, oh,
exactly.
Oh, you're making that up. That's not racist. And now I can be like, don't you see that that's racist? Don't you see that that's anti-Muslim? Or don't you see,
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's
and it also made space for people to run for office who have now become public figures who we just wouldn't have seen, you know, like the freshmen, what do they call them? The squad.
Yeah.
Like those women, are you kidding me? Those women were not going to be in Congress.
Right.
If it weren't for, so he's done terrible, terrible things, and I will not defend a single thing he's done, but I do understand what you're saying, that he's made space for other voices to come forward.
Right.
In your book, you tell it kind of through a bunch of little vignettes and stories about your life and stuff. Aside from your mom being worried, were you ever nervous or worried about telling your stories? Did you think
100%.
I shouldn't do these?
Oh, 100%. In fact, well, for two, let me see if I can. Yes, to summarize, 100% I did. I felt like for two reasons. A, I didn't think I had anything important to say to anybody other than my friends or people that knew me, or a select group of people, because I thought, to me, memoirs were about something serious, of people that did serious things. And, mine was just a story.
Right.
But it all kind of changed. So as I was writing this, it all changed because it was started in 2016, and then it kind of, was published just earlier this year. And so it became, the way I wrote it changed just because the world changed. And so I kind of, it allowed me, I felt a little bit better about it, having, talking to people, and people were actually interested. But also like writing fiction, you can hide behind characters.
Right.
When you're writing as Ayser, there's no way to hide. And, I joke with my friends, I'm like, who's the guy that, Oprah, basically reamed for making up, I think
James Fry.
Yeah.
Talk about him all the time.
Yeah.
I love him.
I don't want to be like that guy. And I'm like, what if I'm on Oprah? That would ever happen. That would be amazing. But I don't want her to say, well, did this really happen, Ayser? What is this? And then all of a sudden, I'm the outcast of the world. So there was that fear, and it's scary. But then again, once I embraced that, it's so liberating. And I found that I like the writing, like ideas that I maybe had thought were not really, this isn't really going to fit, because basically the through line of the book is me feeling like the other, me feeling like the outsider. And then I go to college, and spoiler, there's a point in there where I realized I actually am kind of privileged in a way, because I can pass, and I have spent my life trying to pass. Right. Whereas somebody who in college, I had an African-American roommate, she couldn't pass.
Right.
And I had no idea about that. Again, that's why I'm like this more, as I've gotten older, and the whole idea of intersectionality and, is just, it blows me away, because I did not know her experience. I just knew my experience being an immigrant, being, where you talk funny and you have a weird name, but at least walking down the street, I can I don't know, could just be a dark skinned, American person or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
or not,
you could be like Italian or something.
Not even dark skin. I'm sorry, dark haired is what I'm saying. Light,
Right.
But yeah, Italian or Mexican or whatever.
Right.
And that was accepted. And I don't think that I would have come to that as quickly had I not been writing it as myself. And that's why I, recommend to everybody, even if you're not a memoir writer, you should just write it. Like write a memoir, even if it's in your journal, because it really, you find yourself and then you're able to imbue that into fictional characters.
Right.
So
that's such good advice.
Yeah.
I love that. Valentine's Day is upon us and I've got love on the brain. Love for books. Duh. Of course. Hello. Did you forget what podcast you're listening to? I love bringing you all great reads, exclusive author interviews, and behind the scenes book gossip. But I can only do that with your support over on Patreon and Substack. Our Stacks Patreon community, also known as the Stacks Pack, is where you can go for book club meetups, a private, very active Discord, and a year-long mega reading challenge to help you achieve all your reading goals. Plus, you also get that monthly bonus episode. Now, over on the Substack, you can subscribe to my newsletter, Unstacked, where I keep the book conversations going. I also give you a healthy dose of sports and pop culture, definitely some hot takes happening over there. And again, that bonus episode. If you don't have a few dollars to spare, don't worry. There are free options on the Substack and the Patreon to get you a little extra Stacks magic. Making this podcast is a total team effort, and by supporting my Patreon and my Substack, you allow me to support my amazing team that makes the show possible every single week. So if you or your friends are looking to meet other book lovers and support this indie podcast, come hang out with me on Patreon, Substack, or both. I would love to have you. And since we're talking about love, you can gift subscriptions to the Patreon and the Substack for that special reader in your life. For the Stacks Pack, head to patreon.com/thestacks. And for the newsletter, head to traceythomas.substack.com. And also, there are links to both in the show notes. Okay, see you in the Stacks. We're going to shift off your book. We're going to shift to your reading, but in between we do a little thing called Ask the Stacks. Someone has written in, they want book recommendations. Okay. So I'm going to read to you what they said, and then we're going to try to come up with some books for them. So this comes from Valeria, and I picked her specifically, this email, because we're reading Valeria Luiselli next week. So I thought, let me tie it in. Anyways, she says, I'm looking for book recommendations. I have recently read Stay With Me and The Stranger Beside Me, both of which I loved. I like alternating between fiction and nonfiction. I also have a 4-year-old, 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. So looking for anything I can read between preschool drop-offs and pickups. Are you familiar with either of those books? So Stay With Me, I've not read, but it's a fiction book about a couple. And I believe the story has something to do with the wife can't get pregnant. And there's some sort of pregnancy drama. The other book, The Stranger Beside Me, are you familiar with that one? That's the Anne Rule. It's about when she was living like next door to Ted Bundy. So it's a true crime book. Okay. I know. I was like, I don't know if she's gonna be familiar with these. So it kind of feels like Valeria runs the spectrum. But what I'm hearing most from this email is that she wants something that's really going to be captivating to her, because she wants to be able to pick it up and put it down and like stay with it. Right. So here's what I came up with for you, Valeria. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. The first one is The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini. Such a beautiful book. It's so well written. Intense. It's really intense. I feel like Stay With Me kind of has that same kind of family sweeping narrative, readable. It's one of the best books I've read in the last lifetime, my lifetime. My next pick for you is Helter Skelter by Vincent Bugliosi. It's the story of the Manson murders. He was the prosecuting attorney. So the first half of the book is all about the Manson murders, and then the second half is all about the trial. I will say I love this book. It's one of my all-time faves, but some people think that it gets slow when it gets to the trial. So if you're not into trial procedural stuff, you might not love it, but I love it. And then the last one I have not read, but I'm reading it next. It's called Trick Mirror by Gia Tolentino. It's a book of essays about current pop culture, being a woman, being alive right now, social media, all of these things. And it's essays, so that might be really nice for you when you're doing pick up and drop off, because then you don't have to commit to the book. You can just read an essay at a time. So those are my picks. Does anything come to mind?
Well, I'm struck by the fact that you've recommended Helter Skelter between preschool pickups.
Well, she had the stranger beside me, so I thought we could go true crime.
No. And you're probably right, because I would go, I don't know, like something maybe funny, because when you greet your child.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, gosh, no. You know what? I don't know what I would add to that. That is not the opposite of that.
Do opposite.
Okay. Well, I love nonfiction because I love, and it kind of plays into the, what you're talking, like the true crime kind of thing. Cause I feel like maybe the reason to read true crime, and I don't because it gets into my psyche, but I feel like if I did, it would be because I want to understand why. So my lighter version of that is any Malcolm Gladwell book, because it's like, I'm reading right now, What the Dog Saw.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting because, he's so wonderful in that he makes everything into a narrative. And it's like, so these like, trends and things like that. Like he talks about, the creation of women's hair color and, the reason why Cesar Millan has been so, popular with, getting animals to
He's the dog whisperer?
Yeah. Okay. He's a dog whisperer because basically the title of the book is, it's not, you're not trying to, I think I'm going to butcher this, so I apologize, but you're not trying to get the dog to see what you want it to do. You want to see what the dog sees when you do the motions and, or the hand gestures and what is it?
I don't know.
Trying to train the dog. Anyway. Yeah. But so I love those and they're small. They're like chapters. So
they're like essays kind of.
The other book I absolutely love is, again, it's the kind of animal. I'm really into like animal thought behavior.
Okay.
The Soul of an Octopus.
Oh yeah.
I'm obsessed with the octopus because it's really the smartest animal.
I've heard a lot about this book and how amazing it is and
so
how
good.
Amazing octopus are.
Yeah.
It's
I thought it was octopi, but it's octopuses.
Yeah.
Because it's Greek.
Yeah, it's not what I know that the plural is not what I want it to be, so I just say octopus and
octopus.
Just kind of like roll my eyes and pretend.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just, I mean, I really, you Google any like octopus trying to get out of it. I mean, they're super smart, and they're finding now that like there's brains in their tentacles, and so I've stopped. I mean, I used to at one point eat octopus and I'm like, nope, I'm not gonna. But that's a really great book because again, it gets into like the idea, like what animals, do animals think,
right?
All that kind of thing. And
those are so good.
Am I supposed to pick a third one?
No.
Let's leave yours are better.
No. I love your Malcolm Gladwell suggestions. Though, have you read his newest book?
Which is the newest?
Talking to Strangers. It just came out this year.
No.
Okay. When you read it, let me know what you thought.
Why?
Because I really like him.
Yeah.
I have read all of his books. Uh-huh. I listened to his podcast. And his podcast is maybe 3 or 4 seasons. I listened to every episode. In the last year, he's kind of jumped the shark a little bit. He's kind of,
how so?
I feel like he's riding on his intellectual capital and being like a smart person that we all agree is a smart person. Right. And I think in this book, in Talking to Strangers, he really relies on that and does not rely on his storytelling and his argument making. And he tries to talk about a lot of really delicate social issues. For instance, the Stanford rape case, the Sandra Bland killing.
Yeah.
So he's talking about racism. He's talking about Larry Nassar, the gymnast guy, and the guy who assaulted all the gymnasts. And he is not talking about it. He's talking about racism without talking about race. And he's talking about sexual assault without talking about power. And he's trying to instead talk about how they're strangers and it's like a miscommunication. And it's like his argument is super duper flawed in this book, but he relies on being Malcolm Gladwell. And it was one of my least favorite reading experiences of this year, but I normally love him. And so it's kind of been hard for me because listening to his podcast, I was feeling like he kind of was moving in a direction I wasn't super into. It almost felt like he's been told you need to be talking about current events and really hot topics. And so he tried to force that into what he does instead of just doing his Malcolm Gladwell thing, which is normally picking really obscure examples and taking a point and like really spinning it finely, you know?
Yeah. Oh,
so I'll be interested to hear what you think.
Yeah.
Okay. Now to your reading. We always start here. 2 books you love, 1 book you hate.
I love The Importance of Being Earnest.
Okay.
Oscar Wilde. I just love the whole, I love slapstick and that, you know, kind of mistaken identity. I just absolutely love it. French farce, even though it's not French. Where'd You Go, Bernadette? I love that. I saw the movie and, you know, it was good in its own right.
Is that with Kate Blanchett? Is it out?
Yeah, it came and went. Unfortunately, I think a lot of maybe didn't get press. And people didn't like it. I never understand what. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But okay, so one book I hate. I don't know that I hated it, but I never really understood The Catcher in the Rye.
Oh my gosh, you're like only the 900th person to pick that.
I think again, like going back, and I think like it's the required reading and I'm supposed to identify with this person, but I'm like, I have nothing in common with this person because I'm an Arab, you know, woman. And I found the main character really annoying.
Yeah.
And
that book comes up more than any other book on this podcast for either book you love or book you hate.
Really?
And I think maybe there's only been 10 episodes where it hasn't come up.
So then can you talk about like the demographics?
I think that mostly what it is if you read the book when you were 16.
Yeah.
And if you never reread it, and if you're white, and most of the time if you're male, you like the book.
Okay.
If you reread it, if you read it when you were 25 for the first time, if you read it and you're a brown person, you read it and you're a woman, it doesn't always click. Though we have had some women who read it in high school and loved it, but mostly the hate comes from the other. And like I read it when I was like 22 and I was like, this is dumb, but I gotta go.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what I've like, those are the 2 camps.
Yeah.
But
and today, like, that's what I'm saying. Like back then I was like, oh, I'm not going to say that I did. But now I'm like, I can claim intersectionality is the reason I didn't, you know, it didn't resonate with me. I'm
right.
Like, well, it wasn't like, but brown people, I mean, that's.
I think that's oftentimes. That's fair. Okay. What are you, what's the last great book you read?
Let's say, Tell Me How It Ends.
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk
about it. So
literally it's the last book I read and it's
a great book.
Pretty great book. Yeah.
Okay. What are you reading now?
I have a very bad habit of getting almost to the end of a book and then stopping, not with fiction, but with nonfiction, like The Soul of an Octopus. I have gotten almost to the end.
Right.
So I could say that I'm currently reading that.
Will you finish it?
Yeah, I will.
Or is that not something that you do?
No, I don't know why. It's not a thing. Like a lot of my, you know, like what is the Woody Allen, like never reads Woody Allen would read the ending because he wanted to make sure it had a happy ending. Or in Annie Hall. No, some of my friends, like they don't want to ever read it because then it's finished and then they're sad. That. No, it's not a conscious thing that I do. I'm like, oh, shiny object. Oh, here's something else there. I don't know. One of this probably counts. One of the perks, I say, because this is my very first one that I've done. My agent is also the agent of Mara Gad, and her book, The Color of Love, just came out this Tuesday, the 12th of November.
Okay.
And as part of, I was able, you know, because I shared the agent, he asked me if I would write a blurb, awesome. And I was so honored. And it's so amazing. She's a African-American, she's mixed race, African-American, Jewish. Her
mother, me.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know. That's you would love it. I have it in my, it's.
Oh, I have seen this.
Yeah. It's so great. And I, you know, so I read, you know, you always go into it wanting to read. You're like, okay, I'm going to like this because I have to do a blurb. And,
right.
But I loved it. And she is, so her, you know, she was put up for adoption and she was adopted by a Jewish family.
Oh.
And it's basically her relationship with her great aunt.
Got it.
And the kind of racism. And, you know, again, like this book, I'm glad, I wish it had existed when I was younger. But while I was, you know, dealing with like, you know, people not pronouncing my name or thinking I was Mexican, she was actually dealing with legit racism from her own family.
Right.
And I was like, wow, like you're a badass. So I really, I just finished this, you know, not too long ago. So, and I really love the book and it just came out. So
that's awesome. How do you pick the next book you're going to read if you're not blurbing it? Do you go with recommendations from friends? Are you reading Publishers Weekly? Like, where do you get your books from?
Mainly actually from a Bookstagram.
Okay.
Yeah. And literally from the cover.
I love Bookstagram. Bookstagram is such a beautiful place.
It's great. I did not know about it until my book came out.
I didn't know about it until I started doing the podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess I should create a social media account for my podcast that I haven't started yet.
Yeah.
And then I found all these people that are now my friends.
So great. Yeah.
And I just love it there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always feel like, they take such care to like craft, the photo and the flowers and the coffee.
I know. Some of the people are just such amazing artists.
Yeah.
I'm blown away.
Yeah.
And then some of the people are really creative and smart writers and they write amazing reviews. And I kind of try to follow a mix of those people, but it's just,
I was humbled by the outpouring, that happened when my book came out. I just, and it's really cool because they do very thoughtful, reviews. Like, this is why I like the book. This is how it relates to my life. And,
right.
You're like, oh, okay, cool.
Like, wow, thank you. Yeah, totally. I love that. That's awesome. Shout out Bookstagram. Look at you. What's a book that you really like to recommend to people?
Okay. So I'm a big Steve Martin fan.
Okay.
And I love his book, Pure. It's a little booklet. It's
teeny tiny.
Called Pure Drivel. And he's a fantastic, first of all, he's an amazing playwright. And he's a writer, and he's written, these novels. But this is just a book it's called Pure Drivel, and it's like, I don't know how, like not 100 pages, and it's just nonsense. And it's just, again, I get back to that absurd thing. And it's just so funny. Like, you can't, if you're having a bad day, you just pick it up and, read it. So that's one book. I love My Family and Other Animals, which is Gerald Durrell. That's the reason. He was a biologist, and his family is in English, and his family lived in Greece overseas. But again, it was that kind of it was like I was living in Saudi Arabia at the time, even though we weren't British. I just it's another dysfunctional, warm, loving family that any book that has a dysfunctional family, that's like,
something you're into.
That's yeah.
What's the last really good book that someone has recommended to you?
Well, I have to say, Tell Me How It Ends.
Oh, yes.
Because
I love when it's me that recommends
that's right.
Are there any things that you wish were different about your reading?
That I actually did more of it. That I don't get to, I wish I didn't get so distracted by the internet and I read more.
Truly, the internet is the worst thing that's happened to
right?
reading.
Yeah.
And the best.
And I don't read, I like to read hard. Cover, paper. I want to hold the paper. I do listen to audiobooks because I found that it allows me to read more, like when I'm at the gym or if I'm taking a hike or
totally
cleaning, doing a mindless act. Like, I feel like it helps. And for some reason I absorb more when it's spoken to me.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So I think that I absorb better when I'm reading on the page because I think I get distracted by other things when I'm listening. And I've been listening to podcasts for a really long time. And so I'm really used to the way that podcasts function. So if a podcast is super narrative, I oftentimes don't like it because I'm more interested in a conversation than I am in storytelling audially.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
There's a word there.
We'll
but
a word.
I've learned that a lot of people who are audio learners much prefer audiobooks because they retain much better than people like myself who are visual learners. Like, when I read a book, I can tell you where on the page a thing was that was important to me.
Oh, that's
I can say like, oh, it was on like the left page, kind of high up.
Yeah.
Whatever. Or like, I can tell you where the numbers are because I have a much more visual sense of learning. And in my own personal, self-centeredness, I never really thought about that other people learn other ways.
Sure.
You learn that in school. Like, you could be an audio learner, a visual learner, a tactile learner. But for people who learn through hearing, audiobooks are huge and they retain way more and they can listen to a million books and remember every little detail. Where for me, it's like, if I listen to a fiction book on audio, I might as well not even listen. Like, I just totally zone out. I can't stay with it, which is so weird.
That could be really cheap for you though, because you could just listen to the same book over and over. I'm like, great, I listened to this book. And, hey, I'm going to listen to this book again.
I do a lot of my audiobook listening through the library actually for that reason, because I feel really guilty buying buying a book that I don't pay attention to.
But when I was a kid, I think you have more time, and I would like I came in here with a big like a bag of books that I love. When I would go to the library and literally, like when I was a kid, like cock my head to the side and just like go down the aisles and like, okay, well, that looks interesting. That looks interesting. And just grab all these books and disappear into my room. And I miss that. I miss being able to disappear. I think when I read, there's an impatience. Like I feel like I just want to get to the end and I don't savor it as much. Yeah. And that kind of bums me out a little bit.
Yeah. So you want to be more.
I want to have more time to be more thoughtful. Like, again, all these Bookstagram people are like, oh, I can't wait to curl up with a book. And I'm like, oh, I want to have that desire because I'm always like, oh, I should be doing this. I should be doing that.
Right.
And it's not, I'm not proud of that. So
I feel that. That's very relatable. What's a book that you feel proud about having read?
Okay, so I read The Fountainhead in 2 days, one Christmas break when I was at my parents' house.
Whoa.
And again, going back to that whole I just want to know what happens kind of thing. And I was in college and it spoke to me and that whole idea of individuality. And so it changed my life. Or so I thought, when you're young,
right, of course,
you're like, everything, I'm going to be a libertarian. And I'm not that it matters, but I think it was the first book of its kind that resonated, that, struck me that way. And it could also be the fact that, I went to school. I finished high school here in the States, but I was overseas from when I was 9 to 15. So that was like, I think I came here for 11th grade.
Okay.
So, but I found that most of the required reading was like between 9th grade and 10th grade. Over here. Am I not right?
I don't know.
Because we basically, they recommended Great Expectations over and over and over.
Oh,
I love that book for that reason. But there was a lot of like horror short story stuff. But I feel like I didn't, read a lot of the books that were recommended. And then you think, okay, I'm going to get to it. And like, Catcher in the Rye. And you're like, this is what that was about. Yeah. But The Fountainhead, for some reason, I was like, whoa.
Was that school reading?
No,
some people?
It wasn't. No, I thought, wasn't it?
Not for me.
Oh, okay.
But I grew up in the Bay Area, right? So I don't know if that.
I don't know.
Ayn Rand is like. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why it really. I think it was just again that I got sucked into it.
Right.
It was nothing. I know it's all political related, but I think the fact that I like this is coming from another country and this idea of individuality. That part of it resonated.
Really resonated.
So
that's great. I love that. Are there any books that you feel embarrassed that you still have not read?
Yes. Okay. So Hugh Laurie.
As she settles in.
Yes. So Hugh Laurie is one of my all-time idols.
The actor?
The actor. But
House or whatever.
House, yeah. Okay. But he's also an amazing musician. He has jazz album. And he's written he's written 2 books. This first one he wrote called The Gun Seller a while ago. Like he was still on House, I think, when it came out. And I bought it and I thought, oh, great. This is amazing. I'm going to read it. And it's basically kind of it's a parody of, it's an espionage sort of parody, a satire. And it's, just it's fun. It's clever. There's nothing, I don't know what my problem is. I have tried to read it I've had this book for 10 years. I even went to England. I took it with me and I thought, okay, I'm going to sit in a cafe in this small, sleepy English town. And I still haven't finised it. And I'm really embarrassed. But you know what? Now that I've publicly claimed this, I'm going to finish it.
And you have to post your Bookstagram post about it. To do like a beautiful shot of this book so everyone can see it.
So that's a book that I'm embarrassed because I love him. I just think he is a genius. And it's a good book. But for some reason,
you just can't get into it.
Sister can't get into it.
It's not working for you. I want to talk about the first book or some of the books where you feel like you saw yourself represented, and specifically books about Muslim and or Arab and or Iraq. Or I'm curious because that's a kind of a blind spot in my reading.
Right.
There's a few books that I'm familiar with and I'm just curious kind of like what that was like for you. If there were books that you were like, wow, I'm here in these pages.
Well, I'm curious what the books were for you.
That I saw myself represented?
Oh, that yourself. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like as far as like Black literature, there's a lot. So I feel like that's a good question. Someone should ask it on a podcast.
I just flipped it there.
I know you did flip it. I'm trying to think what books I felt like I saw myself represented. Well, I'm also Jewish, so I definitely remember being young and reading Number the Stars with my mom, which is Lewis Lowry, and I really liked that book. That was about the Holocaust, which is also kind of crazy that I was into the Holocaust like as a child, because that's very much still like in my interest.
Yeah.
Like terrible things.
Well, because it's fast, like the whole,
so fascinating.
How could it have happened? You
Right.
know, it's that.
Right. I'm trying to think what like stories of Black people where I saw myself reflected. Gosh, I've actually never really thought about this question for myself, if I'm being fully honest with you. It's good. I'm stumped.
Well, it's easy to do because, you know.
It's so rare.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I do remember reading the autobiography of Malcolm X and thinking like, damn.
Yeah.
Like what, like Black people are awesome.
Right.
Though I don't know if I saw myself reflected in that.
Right.
But I definitely felt a connection to that part of me.
But do you think that's also a factor of the fact that maybe that book hasn't been written yet, or
Yeah.
it's being written now?
Well, I think there are books now that I've read, like as an adult, that I felt more connected to. Like I recently read The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, like last year. And I definitely saw myself reflected back, but I don't necessarily think that it was a pivotal moment for me. And I know some people do have that pivotal moment book where they feel themselves reflected back. And I don't know. Like, I remember really liking Matilda as a kid because she liked to read, but like everything else about her was not me at all.
Right. Well, see, and that's the thing. Like, I think for me, the book, like that's why I wrote that book, because I wanted it to exist when I was younger.
Right.
I wanted, you know, again, that sounds like a narcissistic thing to say, but it's, you know, it's that whole thing. Like you go out and create what you don't see. Right. So for me, like I said earlier, My Family and Other Animals, the book, you know, because of it was never fully a whole book. So I think what I'm getting from you also, maybe we're thinking the same, is that it's aspects of things.
Yeah. Moments.
Right. Yeah. So, but the one that came closest to me was Funny and Farsi by Fereza Dumas. Yeah, it's a memoir of her growing up Iranian in America.
Right.
And you know, it's just for me like it was close enough to my experience. And actually, I shouldn't say it closer than you would think, because my parents, my mother's side, my mother has she's half Iranian as well.
Okay.
So there's that, but yeah, the whole immigrant thing, the whole being from that region, you know, really, and it was the first time I was like, this is really funny. And it kind of gave me permission years later. Well, it gave me permission. Yeah. It gave me permission years later to write my own thing that wasn't a serious thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Totally.
But yeah, I think but it's changing. What I'm loving about what I'm seeing out right now is, and you know, when I was writing this book, it was having to do the comps, you know, for it. And there was
for people who don't know what that is, comps are basically other books that are similar to your book, and how those books, like how you could pitch your book basically is by saying it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Right. It's Funny Girl meets My Fair Lady.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you're a musical theater fan.
Yeah. But I think like most of the book, like my thing was, it was less cultural and more funny. Like, Let's Pretend This Never Happened by Jenny Lawson, you know, she's white and from Texas, and she's hilarious. But it's that kind of awkward girl sort of thing. Right. So it's just, I think that's the thing is being, now that we're more, the world is smaller, if you will, you know, with and there's so many good content coming out. There's so much good, you know, written content and, you know, on television, like I'm seeing myself on TV a lot more. Right. So I feel like there's going to be a lot more books that will allow me to connect. And
I think also just like we're so much more focused on intersectionality now. And a lot of books 100%. Where I saw myself represented in little moments weren't all the things. Right. Like you could relate to this part of this book or this part of that book. And now I feel that there's being space made for people to write super specific narratives that are not necessarily universal, right? The universal story is kind of done. You know, it's like, okay, we did universal. And by universal, you meant white guy. Super not universal, but thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay, before we get out of here, I definitely want to talk about because you brought it up. Movie, film, adaptation, better than the book, worse than the book.
Okay. So Silver Linings Playbook.
Oh,
I love that movie so much.
Okay.
It's so great. And I read the book.
I didn't even know it was a book.
Yeah. It's based on the guy's real life.
Okay.
And I want to say Matthew Cook, his real, but I felt like, again, I'm going to preface this by saying I'm a visual. It's weird. I'm a visual person.
Mm-hmm.
I like to take in visual, or I ascribe, I remember visual, like images.
Right.
So this is not a knock on the book, but I felt like the main character was he was more sympathetic in the movie. In the book, I found him to be a little bit unlikable.
It's the Bradley Cooper character.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Where he's like this, he's has he's basically anxiety and all these problems that he's trying to work through.
Right.
He says he's been white knuckling it, and then he finally, gets the help and then meets somebody. And so, and David R. Russell is so great with like these little moments, like these just little moments where, they're kind of minor, like incidental moments that are great. And so I really loved that. I loved the Devil Wears Prada. Again, I felt like it was more realized. I felt like the book, I felt like on the page, the book she was kind of, I don't know, I want to say whiny.
Anne Hathaway character?
Yeah. But in the movie, I don't know. In the movie, she seemed, I had more empathy towards her. And of course, Meryl Streep.
Right. It helps. Just bumps your movie up.
Right. Exactly. Just, I almost got into a fight at a dinner party because.
I'm so excited.
Because I told the guy that I basically said that season 2 of Game of Thrones was better than the book, that particular book was. And and just that particular season, I don't claim, like I started reading the books at season 2. So I caught up, and then, I don't think I read the very last one. So I'm only speaking about that one, but just the way they did this particular scene, and I tried to break it down, but he was not having it. He got mad. And so I always, that becomes a joke. I'm like, okay, am I going to tank your dinner party?
Right. Are we talking Game of Thrones or not? That's so funny. Yeah. I'm always fascinated by if people have answers to that. A lot of the time it's hard because it's so often that the book is better than the movie.
Yeah.
Or the TV
that's
show.
Usually what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm the heathen that thinks that.
Well, sometimes it's better. Black Klansman was a way better movie.
Oh, I didn't.
Like so much better. The book was pretty to me.
Yeah.
Like pretty mediocre. And the movie I was really into.
I loved the movie. I saw it twice.
The movie's so good. Don't read the book if you like the movie.
Really?
That's my opinion.
What? No, so, okay, then, because again, I have my reasons, and,
I think that the guy whose story it is, Ron Stallworth, I think that he is wrapped up in some internalized racism, anti-Blackness. And so I think that comes out in the book.
Got it.
And it's not quite as like, fuck the Klan. Like, it's not quite as.
It pulls punches.
The movie is much more Black power.
Sure. Yeah.
Like it's saying something. And the book is kind of more along the lines of, they were in the Klan, but they were also nice guys. It's like that kind of thing where you're like, what are you doing? Why are we here? I hate this. I hate this. I want to go. And it's not that well written. It's fine.
Right.
It's just a fine memoir. But I felt like the movie had a point.
Yeah.
That wasn't just,
right.
I infiltrated the Klan.
But do you think, okay, so here's the thing is I was talking to a friend of mine when I was telling her about, coming on this podcast and like how I feel embarrassed that a lot of times I favor the book. I mean, I favor the movie or the show. And she's like, yeah, all authors basically exploded all around the universe now for you saying that, you heathen. But do you think it's because like you're like, even though it's in your imagination, you it kind of like it's more dimensional. Whereas,
well, I don't know because I normally like the book more.
Yeah,
I guess I don't know. I don't have a good answer, but I definitely think that when a script is written from a book, if it's a good writer and a good director, you have a chance.
Right.
But I think that if the book is just amazing and someone tries to adapt it, I think
absolutely.
that's where the problem is.
Totally.
I think that if the director doesn't have a vision for what they want to do or why they want to tell this story, I think that's where you get screwed.
Yeah. We were taught in film school that I took an adaptation class and the professor said, it's very difficult to make a good movie off of a great book.
Right.
But it's really easy to make a good movie off of a crappy book.
I think that's true because I think then you can take it and make changes and make it make sense.
Right.
Whereas if you're trying to adapt something that's universally praised, people are just going to hate it because they already loved the book.
Right.
Okay. Last question. Always the last question. If you could require the current president of the United States to read one book, what would it be?
What kind of grade level are we talking here?
You can decide. You can interpret this question. People always try to ask for clarification. Will he understand the book? Will he finish it? In my asking of the question, he will understand it. He will finish it. Will he take it into account in his policy in his life? I don't know.
Well, why don't we have him read Tell Me How It Ends?
Yeah. That would have been really helpful. I wish he'd read it, I don't know, before he was president.
Right.
But yes, Tell Me How It Ends. Okay, that's a great segue. Next week, we're talking about Tell Me How It Ends, an essay and 40 questions by Valeria Luiselli. It is a nonfiction book. It is super tiny. I'm going to say this to you. I said it to Ayser when she asked me if she had to read the whole book. I said, yes. It's only 107 pages. The book is tiny. It's a one-day thing. It's a one day or one sitting type of situation. If you're a serious reader, it's definitely one sitting. You could do it in 5 days, but it's not a ton.
Or a 2-hike thing.
It's a 2-hike thing. Yeah. How long was the audiobook?
It's like 2 hours, I think. Or something like that.
2 hours. So you're good. If you haven't started it yet, you have the time. Please do. The book is amazing. We will talk about it next week in detail. It's nonfiction, so there won't be spoilers, but I recommend reading the book just because it's really special and magical in a devastating way. Ayser's book is called The Wrong End of the Table, a mostly comic memoir of a Muslim Arab American woman just trying to fit in. It's out in the world. You can get it wherever you get your books. Ayser, thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And we will see you guys in the stacks. That's it for today. Thank you guys so much for listening as always. And a huge thank you to Ayser Salman for being our guest, as well as the folks at Sky Horse Publishing for sending over a copy of Ayser's book. Find everything we discussed in today's episode in the link in the show notes. Get your book recommendation read on air by sending an email to askingthestacks@gmail.com. For more from The Stacks, follow us on social media at The Stacks Pod on Instagram and at The Stacks Pod _ on Twitter, and check out the website, thestackspodcast.com. To join the Stacks Pack and get inside access to this show, go to patreon.com/thestacks. Make sure you're subscribed to this show wherever you get your podcast. And if you're listening through Apple Podcasts, please rate and review this show. Our graphic designer is Robin McCrite, and our theme music is from Tagirajis. This show was created and produced by me, Tracy Thomas.